Back, you're watching Your World at 10. Now, Reliance Industries is close to closing its second shale gas asset deal, this one with Texas-based Pioneer Natural Resources for a 45% stake in Pioneer's Eagle Ford shale gas field. Now, to find out what kind of potential this field holds, or well, largely speaking, what kind of potential shale holds and why Reliance is picking this field, we're joined by Bill Holland. He's Associate Editor at Platts Gas Daily. Bill, thank you very much for your time. The chairman of Reliance Industries, Mukesh Ambani, in a recent shareholder meeting said that he believed that shale has the potential to likely overtake both conventional gas and liquid fuels as a source of energy within the next decade. Do you concur? What do you think the potential is in shale?
Well, millions of people have gone broke betting one way or another on natural gas, so I'm going to stay away from that question. What I can tell you is that in the United States, we've gone from being chronically undersupplied and reliant on small amounts of liquefied natural gas, LNG, or imports from Canada to make up the difference for our own national needs. But in the last 5 years, we have gone to a surplus. We have actually more gas and more potential reserves than ever before. And the dominant driver of that has been shale, which is really, it's not a different kind of gas. It's natural gas like any other kind of gas. Shale refers to the formation, the geological formation it's in, and it's a very common formation found all over the world. So the potential is there for natural gas because it'll be much more readily available to become a transport fuel, a fuel for power where there'll be enough of a supply that the price will be down so that it rivals coal.
Bill, how does shale trade? It trades at the prices of natural gas. We've seen some weakness in natural gas prices in the recent past. Can you give us your assessment of where you think prices are headed over the medium term, of course? And does shale trade at the same price as natural gas?
Again, shale refers to the geological formation. It's all natural gas that trades on the same natural gas spot in futures markets here in the United States and around the world. The market is agnostic as to where the gas came from. They just care that it's gas. Again, I'm not going to speculate on prices in their direction. People have lost a lot more money than I'm ever going to have doing that. I can tell you that prices have stayed stable and relatively moderate to low in the United States, and most analysts think that's because of the abundance of supply that shale gas has brought to the market. Again, previously we were chronically short, so with swings in weather, hot or cold, you would get spikes in natural gas prices. Those seem to have settled out with the assurance to the markets that there's supply is readily available.
Bill, Reliance's first acquisition in shale was in the Marcellus field. This one is in the Eagle Ford shale field. Is there some way to compare the viability of both these fields or the kind of gas reserves they hold, or is one better than the other? Or can you give us your assessment of why you think Reliance may be attracted to this acquisition? Well,
there are some huge differences between the Marcellus up in Pennsylvania and New York and the Eagle Ford down in South Texas. The Marcellus is mostly what we call dry gas, which is gas that comes out of the ground. It's almost so pure you can put it right on the pipe. But that's very common dry gas. Eagle Ford is a mixture of oil and gas, and there's a thing called natural gas liquids, things like ethane and butane that sit in between the oil and gas. And the Eagle Ford has all of that. It's what we call wet gas. And a producer can drill in the Eagle Ford, sell the gas for a moderate to low price here in the United States, but he fractionates off the ethane and the butane, and those sell at prices that are linked to crude oil. So they're much higher. So that buffers his risk. That makes the field potentially way more profitable. Also, the regulatory regime in the state of Texas is much more favorable, I'd have to say, to oil and gas producers. They've been there forever than it is in Pennsylvania or New York, which are regions of the United States that are just being introduced again, in some cases, to oil and natural gas development.
Bill, why do you think Reliance is interested in Eagle Ford? If I understand correctly, all the consumers for both the gas and the natural gas liquids, as you point out, will be American consumers. So there's little potential for actually shipping this out to consumers across the world. Then what makes a predominantly Indian company like Reliance interested in a field like this?
Well, the first answer is again, remember what I said, shale is a very common geological formation. It's found all over the world. There are shale fields in Eastern Europe. I'm going to come back to that in a minute because ExxonMobil will explain a lot of the interest in why you would buy a shale in the United States when your view is worldwide. The question you and I ought to ask Reliance is, what do you know about India? Is there shale in India? Because what the companies get, and Reliance is just the latest in a line of international oil companies such as France's Total, Italy's Eni, Norway's Statoil, all have gone into joint ventures here in America with shale producers. What they're doing is they're learning the technology and the skills. There's two technologies that have to be mastered. Horizontal drilling, which is when they sink the wellbore vertically and then they turn it 90 degrees, 2 miles or 2 kilometers or so underground, and then they drill out for another kilometer or two to tap into the shale gas. The other technology is what's called hydraulic fracturing, which is using high volumes of water under high pressure to crack that rock deep underground, which releases the gas and gets it flowing to the surface. So these are two skills that took American independent producers, I would say, about 20 years to learn before they had perfected it. And the super majors stayed away from this, so you can't go to Exxon and get this skill. That skill lies at the companies that are the next level down, the XTO Energy, which ExxonMobil just spent $31 billion to buy. And ExxonMobil was very clear. They wanted it to export that technology and that skill to the world. So the question I would recommend you ask Reliance is, what do you know about India's geology that hasn't been made very public yet? Are there shale gas resources right there in India?
Now, I really don't think they're going to answer that question if they do have information on shale resources here in India. But a quick final question, Bill. It's technology transfer that is most likely to drive an acquisition of this nature, right? Because you pointed out that you have moved into a surplus natural gas position in the U.S. thanks to the discovery of many shale deposits, and that will impact prices over a period of time. And if I was reading the many media reports correctly, Pioneer, in fact, made losses in its recent quarter. So this isn't as much a quick pop venture or a quick pop acquisition whereby Reliance comes in and gets to benefit from a growing energy market, as it is a matter of technology transfer and maybe putting that technology to use then in countries like India.
Well, I hate to sound cliche, but in a way it's a win-win for Reliance because in the first instance they are going to make profits from this natural gas in both the Marcellus and the Eagle Ford. The other side to shale that we haven't talked about is that it's incredible low cost to find it and produce it and develop it. Companies in America are basically getting the gas out of the ground for under $2 per MMBTU, and then the market price can be $3 to $4 per MMBTU, a low price, but still very profitable to the producer. So they are going to see a profit which buffers their risk while the technology and skills are being transferred over to your country.
All right, it does sound like a win-win situation. Bill Holland, thank you so much for joining us with your perspective on that potential acquisition. May I remind our viewers that Reliance has not yet confirmed that it is in the play for Eagle Ford Shale. That is the field of Pioneer. But it's time for a quick break on Your World at 10. We're going to come